The Galactic Council chamber was, as usual, a circus of pompous aliens trying to out-peacock each other with their supposedly superior evolutionary traits. You had the floating gas bags of the Helios Collective showing off their ability to change colors. Wow, so impressive, like a space lava lamp. The crystalline Zet'kari, who kept refracting light through their bodies. Yes, you're sparkly, we get it. And of course, the piece de resistance of this cosmic comedy show, the Zet'kari. Picture, if you will, a species that looks like someone crossed a praying mantis with a peacock and then gave it an ego the size of a supermassive black hole. That's the Zet'kari for you. Their ambassador, Zet'kari, stood at the central podium, his iridescent appendages twitching with barely contained superiority as he addressed the chamber. And so Zet'kari's voice resonated with that particular tone that made you want to introduce his face to a brick wall. We find ourselves once again entertaining the primitive notions of our human colleagues. He pronounced human like someone trying to politely describe something they'd found stuck to their shoe. The chamber's holographic displays showed Earth's latest technological achievements. Zet'kari's compound eyes flickered with what passed for amusement among his kind as he dissected each innovation with the delicacy of a meat cleaver. Look at their propulsion systems still relying on reaction mass, and their weapons. He clicked his mandibles in what the universal translator rendered as a chuckle. They're practically throwing rocks with style. That's when Admiral Rodriguez decided she'd had enough of this six-legged stand-up routine. She rose from her seat, and the chamber's atmosphere shifted like someone had just dropped a cube of ice into a pot of boiling water. The Admiral had that effect on people and aliens. She stood just shy of 6 feet tall, her dark hair streaked with silver, and wore her dress whites like armor. "Ambassador Zet'kari," she said, her voice carrying the kind of calm that makes storm clouds nervous. "I couldn't help but notice you've spent the last 20 minutes talking about our technology without actually saying anything of substance. Would you like to make a point, or shall we continue with this delightful comedy routine?" The chamber went quiet enough to hear a photon drop. Zet'kari's antenna twitched, the Zet'kari equivalent of a double take. "Are you suggesting, Admiral, that your species' quaint technological endeavors deserve serious consideration?" His mandibles clicked in that insufferably smug way again. Rodriguez's smile would have made a shark swim the other way. "I'm suggesting, Ambassador, that if you're so confident about the superiority of your species' technology, perhaps we should arrange a practical demonstration. After all, actions speak louder than words, even if those words are being produced by particularly impressive mandibles." And just like that, she dropped the gauntlet with all the subtlety of a supernova. The other council members leaned forward in their seats, suddenly very interested in where this was going. Even the Helios Collective stopped their color-changing show to pay attention. Zet'kari's carapace took on a deeper shade of green, the Zet'kari equivalent of accepting a challenge. "Very well, Admiral. Let us see what your species can do when given the opportunity to demonstrate," bore Zet'kari. He had no idea he'd just volunteered to be part of humanity's most spectacular "I told you so" moment in galactic history. The council chamber erupted into a flurry of activity that resembled a stock exchange run by caffeinated squirrels. Within minutes, the galactic trading network was flooded with bets on humanity's imminent humiliation. The Zet'kari, ever the opportunistic crystals, had already set up odds at 10,000 to 1 against humans managing anything more impressive than making a big boom. Zet'kari, riding high on his perceived victory, laid out the challenge with all the smugness of someone who thinks they're dealing a royal flush while holding a pair of twos. The terms are simple: one demonstration of your most advanced weapons technology. Location: the dead planet in the Sigma 9 system. Time frame: 1 standard galactic month for preparation. Admiral Rodriguez's response was to pull out her quantum comm and make a single call. "Dr. Chen, remember that thing we discussed?" "Yes, that thing. How quickly can you be ready?" She paused, listening. "Perfect. And Doctor?" "Bring the good stuff." Dr. Marcus Chen arrived at the chamber 3 hours later, looking like someone had dragged him out of his lab by his coffee mug. His wild black hair stood up in directions that probably violated several laws of physics, and his lab coat had more stains than a galaxy had stars. He carried a tablet that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts, which, knowing Chen, it probably had been. So he said, pushing up his glasses with a finger that had definitely been used to stir something radioactive recently, "I hear you want to see my toys." The Zet'kari ambassador's mandibles twitched in what might have been disgust. "This is your weapons expert? He looks like he couldn't operate a simple mass driver, let alone Chen cut him off by projecting a hologram that filled the chamber. This, he said with the glee of a kid about to show off their science project, is what we're going to do to your test planet, the simulation showed. Well, something that made several of the more sensitive species emit their species equivalent of a gasp. Impossible, shouted a Helios representative, their gas forms swirling in agitation. The energy requirements alone would. Oh, that's the best part, Chen interrupted, his grin growing wider. We've solved the energy problem. Actually, we solved it about 50 years ago. We just didn't tell anyone because, well, where's the fun in that? The betting odds suddenly shifted to 100,000 to 1. The Sigma-9 system was chosen for its isolation and its perfectly useless dead planet, a rocky wasteland that made Mars look like a tropical paradise. As the day of the demonstration approached, ships from across the galaxy arrived to witness what everyone assumed would be humanity's greatest embarrassment since the time they tried to explain the concept of interpretive dance to the literal-minded logicians of Tau Ceti. The observation fleet was a spectacular display of alien engineering. The Zet'kari brought their flagship, a biological-mechanical hybrid that looked like an origami project gone wrong. The Helios Collective arrived in their signature spherical ships that glowed like miniature suns. Even the reclusive quantum minds had sent an observer, their ship a paradox of exists and doesn't exist that gave everyone headaches if they looked at it too long. And then there was the human vessel. The HSS Prometheus arrived looking exactly like what you'd expect from a primitive species, all straight lines and practical design, with none of the artistic flourishes or biological integration that marked advanced civilization's ships. Several alien species actually laughed out loud when they saw it. That's it, Zet'kari's voice dripped with disdain over the comm channel. That's your mighty vessel. Oh no, Admiral Rodriguez replied sweetly. That's just our delivery truck. The real show is inside. Dr. Chen's voice cut in, sounding disturbingly cheerful for someone about to demonstrate a planet-killing weapon. Now, before we begin, I should mention that we've taken the liberty of setting up some safety measures everyone might want to back up about. Oh, let's say half a light year. The betting odds hit 1 million to 1. The alien ships reluctantly moved back, their sensors trained on the Prometheus and the dead planet below. Nobody wanted to miss what they were sure would be humanity's greatest failure. Also, Chen added as an afterthought, if anyone's recording this, you might want to use quantum-shielded data storage. Regular systems might get a bit wonky. A Zet'kari ship captain crystallized what everyone was thinking. What exactly are you planning to do? Rodriguez and Chen shared a look that would have sent any sensible species running for the nearest wormhole. Oh, Rodriguez said with a smile that would have made a predator proud, we're just going to show you why humans never shared our really interesting technological breakthroughs. In the observation fleet, the betting pools reached their final frenzy. The Helios Collective bet their entire solar art collection on human failure. The Zet'kari wagered enough precious minerals to buy a small star system. Even the quantum minds placed a bet, though nobody was quite sure what they wagered since it existed in a state of quantum uncertainty. As the final preparations were made, Zet'kari couldn't resist one last jab. I do hope this won't be too embarrassing for your species, Admiral. Though I must admit your ability to maintain dignity in the face of certain humiliation is admirable. Rodriguez's reply was simple. Dr. Chen, would you like to show them why we named our ship Prometheus? Chen's cackle over the comm made several alien species check their universal translators for malfunction. Oh yes, let's give them a proper human welcome to the big leagues. The aliens were about to learn why you should never, ever dare humans to show off their really dangerous toys. The Prometheus hung in space like a statement of calculated understatement. Its design followed the, if it ain't broke, don't make it look fancy school of engineering that humanity had perfected over centuries. The hull was a practical gunmetal grey, its lines clean and functional, with none of the bioluminescent frills or quantum crystalline embellishments that marked advanced ship designs. Look at those primitive radiator panels, one of the Helios observers commented, their gaseous form rippling with amusement. They're still dealing with waste heat like it's the Stone Age. And those engines, a Zet'kari captain chimed in, their crystalline body refracting light in what passed for their version of laughter. Pure reaction mass propulsion. How quaint. Commander Zhang Wei, standing on the Prometheus's bridge, listened to the alien chatter with the patience of someone who knew exactly what was coming. Dr. Chen, how's our little surprise package coming along? Deep in the ship's central laboratory, Dr. Chen was conducting what looked like a cross between a symphony orchestra performance and a mad scientist's fever dream. His team moved with practiced precision, each member knowing their role in this carefully choreographed dance of potential devastation. "Oh, you know," Chen replied, adjusting something that definitely shouldn't be adjusted without proper safety protocols, just making sure we don't accidentally convert this entire star system into a physics lesson about conservation of energy, or rather, the lack thereof. The quantum cascade device sat in the center of the lab like a piece of modern art that had escaped from a museum of impossible things. At first glance, it looked deceptively simple, a sphere about 2 meters in diameter, its surface a perfect mirror that seemed to reflect everything and nothing at once. But if you looked closely, which several of Chen's team had learned not to do after the incident with the temporary eye swapping, you could see patterns in the surface that seemed to exist in more dimensions than space typically allowed. "Running final diagnostic on the QCD," announced Dr. Patel, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. "Quantum entanglement matrix at 99.999% stability." "Only 99.999%, Chen Mok complained, pushing his perpetually sliding glasses back up his nose. "Come on, people, we're trying to impress some aliens here, not cater a kindergarten party." Outside, the alien fleet had organized itself into a neat observation formation, maintaining what they thought was a safe distance. The betting pool had reached astronomical proportions, with several species wagering technology rights and even planetary ownership on humanity's imminent failure. Zen'thrax's voice crackled over the comm again, dripping with condescension. "I notice your vessel lacks any form of biological integration or neural interface systems. How do you even manage to coordinate your actions? Through verbal commands, like primitives?" Commander Zhang's reply was delivered with the kind of smile you could hear, "Oh, we find talking works just fine. Especially when we're about to prove a point." In the lab, Chen's team had moved to the final preparation phase. The quantum cascade device had begun to hum with a sound that somehow managed to be both subsonic and supersonic simultaneously, creating an effect that made several crew members' fillings tingle. "Quantum field stabilizers online," reported Lieutenant Hassan, monitoring a display that showed readings in at least 4 different number systems, 2 of which he'd invented himself. "Probability matrix aligned," added Dr. Wong, her hands moving through the holographic controls like she was conducting an orchestra of impossibilities. Chen stood back, admiring their work with the pride of a parent whose child just solved unified field theory as a homework assignment. "You know what the best part is," he said to no one in particular. "We actually developed this technology by accident. We were trying to make a more efficient coffee maker." The alien observers, monitoring the Prometheus's power outputs, were beginning to show signs of confusion. Their sensors couldn't make sense of the energy readings they were getting, or rather, the lack thereof. "This is impossible," a Helios scientist declared. "Their power core should be showing some form of output, but it's like they're running on nothing." "Maybe their sensors are malfunctioning," suggested a Zet'kari observer, trying to maintain their species' superiority complex. A quantum mind representative, their thoughts manifesting as patterns of probability, simply stated, "Our calculations suggest this scenario exists in a state of nope." Inside the Prometheus, final preparations reached their crescendo. The quantum cascade device had begun to exhibit properties that made looking directly at it feel like trying to remember a dream about forgetting something important. "QCD spinning up to critical threshold," announced Patel. "Quantum field integrity at theoretical maximum. Reality distortion well within acceptable parameters." "Define acceptable parameters," Commander Zhang requested, one eyebrow raised. Chen's grin threatened to escape the normal bounds of human facial expression. "Well, we're only breaking 3 fundamental laws of physics instead of all of them. I call that a win." The alien betting pool reached its final frenzy. The Zet'kari had wagered their entire collection of preserved evolutionary dead ends, considered priceless among xenobiologists. The Helios Collective had bet the rights to their solar wind harvesting technology. Even the notoriously cautious Zet'kari had put up their secret crystal formation techniques. Admiral Rodriguez's voice cut through the growing tension. "Dr. Chen, status report." Chen looked at his final readouts, each displaying numbers that shouldn't exist in normal spacetime. "Remember that old Earth saying about sufficiently advanced technology being indistinguishable from magic?" "Yes. Well, we're about to make stage magicians look like amateur hour at the physics department." The quantum cascade device had begun to emit a soft glow that somehow managed to be both blindingly bright and impossibly dark at the same time. The space around it seemed to fold in ways that made topologists wake up screaming. Zen'thrax made one final transmission. I do hope you've prepared a suitable explanation for your failure, Admiral. The Galactic Council will expect a full report on why. Rodriguez cut him off. Dr. Chen? I believe it's showtime. Chen raised his hand like a conductor about to begin the universe's most impressive symphony. Ladies, gentlemen, and various entities of indeterminate classification, let's show them why humans aren't allowed to play with the really fun toys at most galactic parties. The quantum cascade device pulsed once, a ripple of something that wasn't quite energy and wasn't quite matter spreading through the lab. Every alien sensor in the system suddenly began registering readings that their designers had considered theoretically impossible. The show was about to begin, and the universe was not ready for what humans considered showing off. Dr. Chen's finger hovered over the activation sequence with all the dramatic tension of a theater performer about to deliver the final line of a Shakespeare play. Now, everyone watching might want to adjust their senses to compensate for, well, everything. What does he mean by everything? A Helios observer asked nervously. They got their answer approximately 0.3 seconds later. The quantum cascade device activated with all the subtlety of a tapped dancing elephant in a library. A beam of something shot from the Prometheus toward the test planet. The alien sensors tried to classify it and collectively gave up, deciding to display _TU_ instead of actual readings. Is that Zen'thrax's voice cracked? Is that a contained breach in the fabric of reality? Oh no, Chen replied cheerfully, that's just the targeting system. The fun part hasn't started yet. The beam struck the planet's surface, and for a moment nothing happened. The alien observers began to relax, several already composing smug messages about human failure. Then the planet hiccuped, there's no other word for it. The entire celestial body seemed to pause, like reality itself was buffering. Then it began to unfold. What you're witnessing, Admiral Rodriguez announced to the stunned audience, is our quantum cascade device's primary function. We're not destroying the planet, we're converting it into pure energy by unraveling its quantum structure at a fundamental level. The planet's surface began to ripple like water in a pond, except the ripples were moving in directions that shouldn't exist in three-dimensional space. Mountains flowed like liquid, oceans of magma rose and fell in impossible patterns, and the planet's core began to sing in frequencies that made several alien species develop temporary synesthesia. Impossible, screamed a Excital scientist. You can't just unmake matter like that. Actually, Chen corrected, adjusting his glasses, we're not unmaking it. We're just convincing it to become something else. Think of it as extreme recycling. The planet's transformation accelerated. Layers of rock and metal peeled away like pages from a cosmic book, each one dissolving into pure energy that formed a growing sphere of light around the planet's remaining mass. Commander Zhang's voice came over the general frequency. All observers might want to activate their strongest shields right about now. The planet reached critical mass. What happened next defied description in any known language, but let's try anyway. Imagine if someone took a supernova, compressed it into a snow globe, shook it really hard, and then let reality itself sneeze. That's approximately 0.001% of what occurred. The planet didn't explode, it transcended the very concept of explosion. Every atom, every quantum particle, every piece of matter that had once been a planet simultaneously decided to become pure energy in a display that made nuclear fusion look like a damp matchstick. The resulting energy sphere expanded outward in a perfect circle, stopping exactly at the safety perimeter Chen had specified. Within that sphere, space itself got a bit wobbly. Don't worry about the spatial distortions, Chen assured the panicking observers. They're mostly temporary. Mostly. The alien fleet hung in shocked silence, their sensors overloaded, their computers trying to calculate energy readings and returning errors in languages that hadn't been invented yet. Several Helios observers had to be reminded to maintain their gaseous form as they'd started to solidify from sheer shock. Zen'thrax's voice, when it finally came, sounded like someone trying to maintain dignity while having an existential crisis. That was. How did you? Oh, that Rodriguez's voice carried just a hint of smugness. That's just our beta test version. We're still working out some kinks. Kinks, the word was simultaneously shouted by about 15 different species. Well, yes, Chen explained, as if discussing the weather. The energy conversion rate is only about 99.9% efficient. Honestly, it's a bit embarrassing. In the lab, we've achieved 99.999997% efficiency. but you know how it is with field tests. The quantum energy sphere began to stabilize, its light dimming to merely blinding rather than reality-altering. Where the planet had been, there was now just a perfect sphere of energy, contained within human-designed quantum fields that, by all known laws of physics, shouldn't have been possible. Would anyone like to see what happens when we release the containment in a controlled manner? Chen asked, his finger hovering over another button. No, the response came from every alien ship simultaneously. Are you sure? Because we could, please no. The realization began to dawn on the alien observers, spreading through their ranks like a virus of understanding humans hadn't been technologically inferior. They'd been holding back. A lot. A quantum mind representative transmitted a thought that translated roughly to our calculations suggest we may have made a significant error in judgment regarding human technological capabilities. Also, we appear to be experiencing what humans call brown pants time. The betting systems across the observation fleet spontaneously shut down, their operators too busy having existential crises to worry about gambling debts. Several excital observers had developed stress fractures in their crystalline forms. The Helios Collective had shifted to ultraviolet in shock, making their ships look like giant mood rings stuck on terrified. Now then, Admiral Rodriguez's voice cut through the chaos like a knife through butter, assuming the knife was quantum-enabled and the butter was having a nervous breakdown. Perhaps we should discuss revising some of those technology-sharing treaties. You know, the ones where you all classified us as a developing species. Zet'kari, to his credit, managed to form words despite his mandibles clicking in terror. This level of technology. How long have you? Oh, this old thing. Chen waved dismissively at the quantum cascade device. Like I said, we discovered the principles by accident about 50 years ago. We've just been refining it since then. You should see what we came up with when we were actually trying. The implications of that statement hit the alien observers like a planet-sized hammer. If this was what humans developed by accident, would anyone like to see our actual weapons research? Rodriguez offered innocently. The resulting chorus of no was so loud it briefly created a new type of radiation. The energy sphere continued to hover in space, a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder that sometimes the most dangerous species in the galaxy aren't the ones with the flashiest technology, they're the ones who figure out how to break physics and then decide to keep it as a hobby. Commander Zhang's voice carried just a hint of amusement. Dr. Chen, perhaps we should start collecting the energy sphere before our friends have any more excitement. Oh right, Chen brightened. Watch this, we've figured out how to bottle it. Anyone want a souvenir? We're thinking of marketing them as nightlights. The sound of several alien species simultaneously disconnecting from the communication network was all the answer he needed. The emergency session of the Galactic Council that followed could best be described as organized panic. The chamber, usually a model of dignified discourse, now resembled a cosmic therapy session for traumatized species. The Helios Collective had shifted to a deep blue of existential dread, their gaseous forms huddled together like a support group for shell-shocked nebulae. The Zet'kari representatives had developed stress-induced prismatic fractures, causing them to accidentally project rainbow patterns on the walls. Even the quantum minds, usually unflappable in their multidimensional existence, were reportedly stuck in a state of quantum uncertainty between terrified and impressed. Zet'kari stood at the podium, his magnificent iridescent carapace now a sickly shade of green-gray. His antennae drooped like wet noodles as he addressed the chamber. In light of recent demonstrations, he began, his mandibles quivering. The Zet'kari Dominion would like to formally apologize for any suggestions of human technological inferiority. We would also like to withdraw our previous objections to human membership in the Advanced Species Technology Exchange Program. Admiral Rodriguez, sitting in the human delegations section with Dr. Chen, smiled like a cat that had not only got the cream but had also negotiated exclusive rights to the dairy. Apology accepted, Ambassador. Though I must admit your previous assessment of our technology as primitive did give us a good laugh in the research department. Speaking of research, Chen piped up, fiddling with what looked suspiciously like another reality-bending device. Would anyone like to see what we've been working on in terms of dimensional manipulation? No, the chamber's unanimous response was immediate and heartfelt. The political restructuring that followed was swift and comprehensive. Trade agreements were revised, technology-sharing protocols were updated, and several species suddenly remembered they had urgent appointments in distant galaxies. You know what the really funny part is? Chen mentioned casually during one of the treaty negotiations. causing several alien representatives to develop nervous twitches. That quantum cascade device? We originally designed it as a clean energy solution. The whole converting planets into pure energy thing was just a side effect we thought might come in handy someday. The quantum mind representative transmitted a thought that translated to our probability matrices are experiencing what humans call a mental breakdown. New diplomatic protocols were established with remarkable efficiency. The phrase, "please don't let the humans demonstrate anything else," became a common addition to intergalactic treaties. Several species began including, "Are you sure you want to antagonize the humans?" warnings in their diplomatic training programs. Commander Zhang, reviewing the new treaties aboard the Prometheus, couldn't help but chuckle. "You know, we should probably tell them about the coffee maker incident." "Let's not," Rodriguez replied with a smirk. "Some species are still trying to cope with the fact that we accidentally discovered how to rewrite quantum mechanics." The final signing ceremony was a masterpiece of diplomatic tension. Zet'kari, now permanently stuck in a shade of anxious green, formally presented humanity with the highest technological recognition the Galactic Council could offer. "We look forward," he managed to say without his mandibles clicking too obviously, "to a long and peaceful cooperation with humanity." "Oh, absolutely," Rodriguez agreed cheerfully. "Though I should mention that planet converter you all saw. That's not even our most impressive technology." The chamber went so quiet you could hear a photon drop. "You see," Chen explained, enjoying himself far too much, "we've been doing some really interesting work with probability manipulation and cosmic string theory. Would anyone like a demonstration of our prototype universe folder?" The sound of several hundred alien species trying to find polite ways to say please no at once created a brief harmonic resonance that made the fabric of reality hiccup. "Just kidding," Chen laughed. "That one's still in the lab. Though we did manage to create a pocket dimension last week during a coffee break. Anyone want to see?" The treaty signing was completed in record time, quite possibly breaking several laws of physics in the process. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Rodriguez turned to address the chamber one last time. "Oh, and one more thing, all those bets that were placed against us. We'll be collecting them now. We're thinking of using the resources to fund our newest research project." "What? What project would that be?" a brave or foolish Excital representative ventured to ask. Chen's grin should have been classified as a weapon of mass destruction. "Let's just say we've been thinking about the nature of time itself and whether it really needs to flow in just one direction." The ensuing silence was broken only by the sound of several alien species simultaneously deciding that maybe they needed to re-evaluate their position in the universe. As they boarded their primitive ship, Rodriguez turned to Chen. "You think we should tell them about the actual weapons research?" "Nah," Chen replied, already sketching plans for something that probably violated several laws of physics. "Let's save something for the next time someone calls us primitive. Though I do wonder what? If they're this scared of our accidents, imagine how they'd react to what we make on purpose." The Prometheus departed, leaving behind a galactic council that would never again make assumptions about primitive species, and a group of aliens who still have nightmares about the day they learned why humans were the only species in the galaxy banned from bringing homemade science projects to the annual Galactic Science Fair. Some say that on quiet nights you can still hear Zet'kari's mandibles clicking in terror whenever someone mentions the words human engineering.